like she really ships it hard.
Welcome to Inchworm,
the podcast in which we're inching through Worm. I'm Jenny.
and I'm Ted.
This time we read Infestation 11.4.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to see Tattletale's territory, which is not quite Tattletale's territory yet, but she's got some cool stuff going on.
That's true. We'll talk about it. I mean, why don't you tell me what happened in the chapter?
Sure, okay. It starts with Taylor arriving at Tattletale's lair, but it's not actually a lair, it's a shelter. It's secretly Tattletale's headquarters, and she has like a secret room of like computers and people on them. Mm-hmm. But she's also running an actual shelter for people in Brockton Bay, except it doesn't seem like she's running it because, as she says, that would be too obvious. So Taylor shows up. She's dressed down. She's not in her costume. She has her knife. Is being kind of subtle about it. And she goes into the shelter. It's a lot like the places she was staying before she hooked back up with the Undersiders. There's some rules on the wall. She finds a staff person who's like, oh, we're totally full up. Sorry, we just opened yesterday. We're completely full. She's like, no, I'm looking for Lisa. And he says, works here, Lisa, or staying here, Lisa? And she's like, both. So he points her to the front desk. Lisa is getting information from a woman whose house, it seems like, has been taken over by merchants. And there's a map on the wall showing different territories, merchant territories, chosen territories, areas that might be dangerous for people. And Skitter's territory is also there, marked Skitter, low threat, free supplies, ? So once Lisa's done talking to this woman, she turns to Taylor and pretends to be like, oh, do you need information? Lost and found? What's going on? And Taylor's like, well, I'm just here because a friend invited me to a party. And Lisa winks at her and calls someone else to take over her desk and takes her in to show her the room with the computers. And in there it's basically like a serial killer map on the wall. Is that what you would call it?
I would call it a conspiracy board.
Conspiracy board.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's the Pepe Sylvia meme. It's also the, what they have on every season of The Wire, the investigation board with all the suspects and the leads and the connections. Yeah, and it's every one of the Undersiders and Coil's enemies. And Lisa says that, with getting all the information from people coming in and out of the shelter, these are the people who are out there on the street experiencing it. So she's getting a ton of info. But she says she's getting the beginning of one of those headaches she gets when she uses her power too much. Mm-hmm. Which is a fun insight. So they're going to head out. They're going to go to this party. Taylor says she's feeling a little uncomfortable without her stuff, meaning her costume. And Lisa says this is just recon and we will have escorts. And she calls 4 of her soldiers. She has 6, it seems like. These guys are Miner, Senegal, Jaw, and Brooks. While they're arriving, Taylor and Lisa have a brief conversation about Brian, which we can get into. Then these guys arrive. 3 of them are huge, and then one of them, Brooks, is actually shorter than Taylor is. Miner is the team captain. He's one of the big guys. There's Senegal, Jaw, and then Brooks, the short one, is the field medic, who's also apparently pretty tech-savvy. And Lisa says that everyone can pose as couples. She says that Miner will be with her, Senegal will escort her friend, who she does not name, and she says that Jaw and Brooks can be a couple. And Jaw laughs and Brooks seems very angry about this, and Miner kind of puts him in his place about objecting to it. Lisa says she would have brought the one woman among her soldiers, but she thinks that the merchants will be more intimidated by guys. So they head out. She takes a couple of elastic bands with her. She puts on one yellow band, and Miner gets a yellow and black band. They leave. Senegal is the one who's escorting Taylor. He puts an arm around her and pulls her close, and she looks at his face and feels really uncomfortable. She says that he has an expression sort of like bitches, except instead of angry, he seems hungry. She tells him to take his hands off her. He's like, well, your friend said we were a couple, and doesn't move. And Lisa tells him to knock it off, and then he does. But he still has a smile on his face that Taylor says is fake, and she's not sure she would know it was fake if she hadn't gotten to know bitch. Lisa tells the guys to go ahead so that she can talk to Taylor.
And Brooks kind of challenges, like, what is Taylor even doing there? And Lisa says, there's a reason she's here. I'm saying that should be good enough for you. And again, Minor has to kind of call Brooks into line. So once the others are ahead, Taylor and Lisa start talking, and Lisa's like, yeah, this is partly why I haven't made a big claim in my territory yet. I'm dealing with these guys and their personalities. She says she paired herself up with Minor because she wanted to talk to him about their long-term plans and because she wanted to start building a rapport. And that Senegal and Brooks are a problem because Senegal is kind of a bad seed, and Brooks wants to be friends with him, but isn't smooth enough to, like, imitate what he does really effectively. So she didn't want to put them together, and she didn't want to put Taylor with Brooks because she thought that might be even worse. She says that the other two, Prit and Dimitri, she left Dimitri behind because he's second in command and is the only other person she trusts to run the shelter when she's not there. And Prit is a woman who's really a hard ass, and Lisa wasn't comfortable leaving her alone without anyone to supervise her and didn't want to swing the gender balance of their group in a way that might make the merchants think that they were able to be attacked. She asks Taylor to put up with Senegal, says it might even help their cover if Taylor seems uncomfortable around him, and Taylor really doesn't like that. She's kind of making a connection in her head to being a bullying victim again. And Lisa says, play along. I'll make sure you never see him again after tonight. At least this is a good disguise. Then Taylor fills her in on her attempts to take over her territory, says she's uncomfortable with her range not extending to her whole territory, and she wishes she had that power boost she'd had before. And Lisa says she actually has a theory about that her power is strongest when she's closest to the situation she was in when she had her trigger event. Lisa says this seems to be true for herself as well, and she thinks it's probably true for all capes. The tricky thing is that since Taylor's trigger event was one of hopelessness and frustration, she's only going to be able to get those extra powers when she's in that kind of bad place. Lisa says the danger there is that there'll be sort of a conditioning effect where wanting their powers to be stronger might drive them into these sort of ugly situations. But on the plus side, at least when situations do get ugly, they'll kind of have extra power to compensate. Taylor kind of nudges her for more information about, like, oh, how does this manifest for you? Like, kind of asking about her trigger event. And Lisa's like, I will tell you. I said no more secrets, but right now where we're going, I don't want to get into that headspace. And now they actually are where they're going. They're at the Weymouth Shopping Center, location of the slap, where Taylor used to go shopping all her life. Taylor sees that a lot of the merchants there have fresh bands around their wrists. Lisa says yellow bands are for a test of courage, black for near-death experience, and the red ones they're handing out at the door now are for blood, as Taylor guesses. Something ugly's going to happen tonight.
I don't know. Couldn't be that bad, right?
Yeah, so Lisa said this is strict recon. I do not think it's going to be strict recon. I think something's going to be happening that Taylor will not be able to stomach just watching happen. And it's going to be tricky. She's not in her costume. We've seen her operate out of her costume before, but could get dicey. There are these 4 soldiers who are sort of on her side, but they also are a liability because they have seen her face, and if they know that she is the one controlling the bugs, they could make that connection. That's dangerous for her.
Yeah.
They also, there are tricky personalities there that she's trying to deal with, or that Lisa's trying to deal with.
Yeah. Do you want to start with some more about predicting where you think this might go or the arc might go, or circle back to that later if you're inspired? Or
So my immediate thought, just based on sort of efficiency principles of plotting, which are not always in effect in this story because it's so sprawling, are that we're going to see some bad stuff happen to some people, possibly including Sierra's brother. He's someone who was taken. He doesn't seem like a super obvious, like, this is a fun person to put up for a victim of, like, a sacrifice or, a sexual assault or something like that. But he is a young guy. I could see them wanting to initiate him in something like this. They kidnapped him. Maybe he also was already a member. Maybe he's a new recruit that they're trying to forcibly involve. Maybe they take, young guys to kind of indoctrinate them. They could be making him do something that he doesn't want to do, but he's not in a position to refuse. as sort of a hazing / making him do something brutal that will make him think he can't go back to the outside world.
Right. So yeah, it's not just Taylor seeing, oh, these poor innocent strangers, but also like, well, this
person I'm supposed to rescue is on the verge of being made to do something terrible. Yeah. Seems more likely than having something terrible happen to him, though it could go either way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think she is going to end up acting.
And what do you think any consequences of this might be?
Oh, man. I mean, it's tough because, of course, if she acts, they're going to know it's Skitter. Even if she hides her face. Like, they might not know who Taylor is, especially because she doesn't need to be doing anything obvious to use her bugs. Like, she could just be standing there in the crowd using her bugs. But they'll know Skitter did this, which means that Skitter is openly attacking a merchants meeting, which means it's all sort of a declaration of war. She just declared a territory, and now she's attacking their territory. Mm-hmm. She's gonna have a lot of merchants to handle, I think.
Yeah, that's a great point.
So I do suspect that she will summon bugs before anything bad goes down because they're here for recon, and that's how she does her recon. Yeah. I'm sure her range covers the whole mall. Yeah. So she's going to have a lot of bugs on hand.
Right. And we know the city is well infested. Yeah. Plus Leviathan. Yeah. So she shouldn't have too much of a problem if she does want to get her bug hands dirty.
Her wings dirty. I guess her legs. Her 6 legs per bug.
All right. Yeah. I mean, that all sounds grim, but kind of exciting.
Yeah, I think it is going to be exciting. She
Room
might
for
get
some bad
chased back to her territory a little bit, or she might go back to her territory to find that it's not... I don't know if they could, beat her back there, but, Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be tough. And it's just her. Lisa doesn't have the kind of power that's great in combat. These 4 guys... I think I said she had 6 soldiers earlier. She has 4 with her. These 4 guys are, not going to be able to do a ton against, all the merchants.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Bodes ill.
Probably going to be messy. I mean, we'll find out.
Next time. No, I'm just kidding.
What do you want to start with? How did you feel about the chapter?
It was fun. I mean, it was mostly a transitional chapter. It was really fun to see Lisa's headquarters. Mm-hmm. I was so confused. I'm like, where is Lisa's building? Because all that's here is a gas station, which doesn't seem to be hers, and this shelter. And then she's working at the shelter. I was like, oh, it makes sense that she's working at a shelter. And then I slowly realized, oh, this is her actual headquarters. Yeah. I don't think that when Coil described it, he wasn't saying it was a shelter. So it seems like maybe it was Lisa's initiative to turn it into one. Really good idea, because it does mean she gets this on the ground knowledge.
Yep.
She's keeping these maps. She's collecting information.
It's this thread of her saying oh yeah, I have friends in the docks, and kind of the times that she was living on the street, right?
She's so connected.
There is kind of a it's a win-win-win, but I do believe in the part of her that is I actually do want to do this sort of social good in her own way, right?
Yeah.
And it's funny because we have several beats in the chapter of Lisa being oh, it'd be too obvious for me to be you sort of out as Tattletale running this shelter or whatever. And on the map on the wall, my territory, Lisa's territory, is divided up between a little bit of Gru and a little bit of merchants, mm-hmm. right? Because she hasn't actually made a play.
Right.
And she also says well, the difficulty with the soldiers, I just kind of don't know how it's all going to work. And this is so good for me getting information about the merchants. And part of me is thinking
she should just keep it like this.
Right.
She doesn't need to control the territory in an obvious way.
What would it even look like for her to be me, Tattletale, this is my turf, right? I sort of feel this is all it is. And so...
Yeah, this is perfect for her.
I do wonder is that her just being indirect or not? Does she think I will at some point flip this around and do a show of force like Skitter? Or does she just not care to make that explicit? And it's just sort of she'll just kind of be oh, I'll do it later, make little excuses, but she never actually intends to do it. It's kind of interesting.
I don't know. She might feel insecure about her lack of offensive power.
Yeah.
Because Taylor is in a position where she can say, this is my territory. I alone am defending this. And I mean, I was just saying that she's kind of weaker because she's alone, but even alone, she can protect it. And Lisa doesn't really have that kind of power. So maybe she just hasn't admitted to herself that it doesn't make sense for her to control territory in the same way. Because she is going to operate best undercover, basically.
Right.
Like, people aren't going to come give Tattletale the supervillain this information about the merchants unless they've come to really trust her for taking down the merchants.
Right.
But they will come tell this shelter worker who's, like, gathering information. That makes perfect sense for her.
Yeah. There's another beat in here that I was thinking about where, like, I believe Lisa's staff were given to her by Coil, right? And then, like, Bitch also had some staff, and then everybody else was kind of on their own to recruit. Yep. So I was kind of wondering, like, did Coil handpick the people? And did he intentionally give her people that are hard to work with? Or is it just like, in any 6 Coil soldiers, you'll have personalities that Tattletale can dig her teeth into? But now, with this thing about like, oh, maybe she's, you know, hasn't quite come to grips with the fact that she works best undercover. And like at the end of last chapter, she was like, wow, sounds like you're a lot further ahead than the rest of us, right? Like maybe that was a little more personal than just sort of like poking fun at Taylor.
Yeah.
I wonder if the separating the Undersiders thing is also the kind of thing that kind of is meant to put Tattletale on a back foot, right? Like it's sort of the controlling a territory seems like something, it's really good for Skitter. She's like the one who's best positioned to do it. Maybe then Bitch, I think we were saying. And then like Gru and Imp, there's 2 of them, you know, like we don't really know much about Regent's whole deal.
I was just thinking about him. I was like, I bet he has 3 thralls now. Yeah.
And don't like that for him.
No, I don't like that for him either. It's
an
real
interesting
bad.
theory. But yeah, but of all of the Undersiders, Lisa is the one who is going to be worst at the nominal mission. On the other hand, she so obviously thrives undercover.
Yeah, I mean, she is doing well in this situation.
Yeah, I feel like as soon as she stakes out, like, okay, this is Tattletale's domain, like, come and get me, she's immediately going to start losing power. Like, there's just no way for her to, in a direct fight where you know you're fighting her, she's not nearly as effective as in, like, wait, who is this? What's going on? Why is she here? Right? Like, strategically, she should always be an underdog, punching up, scrambling to pull herself up to the next idea, the next victory. And it would be very interesting to see what it would look like for her to like have to defend her turf. But whether intentionally or not, she's not going to pull that move anytime soon, it sounds like.
I mean, I hope not.
I love my theme for this chapter is lairs. Not Lair, though we do get Tattletale's lair, but the different lairs in the people and the places. Yeah, right. So we have this with people and a few different beats, but the most obvious one is the lair with lairs, right? It's the shelter, and then that's like Lisa who works here, and then you go behind the front desk and you get to the computer room, and that's Tattletale's room. And in the shelter, you have the community public board with the territory maps that's like a public good, like, hey, here's where to go and here's where to avoid, right? And it's open source information, and you go into the Tattletale room and it's computers and it's the conspiracy board with the red string, and it's all of this like secret information. But then you go one bit further and it's Lisa's room again. And this is like Lisa's room where she lives, right? And so she does go with just Taylor and take her into Lisa's room when she is going to like call for her men and like figure everything out. But when they are in Lisa's room, you know, there's a bed and all that stuff, and there's a little curtained off section at the back of Lisa's room that Taylor does not step behind. And I love this so much because to me, that is the part of Lisa that is like Sarah, or the part of Lisa that is her trigger event, right? We still do not really know what makes this girl tick. And so I love that as we keep peeling back the layers of this onion, Taylor gets to go very, very close to the inner sanctum, but there's still a little piece that is cordoned off. And, it comes up much more explicitly when they're talking about powers and trigger events and stuff. And Lisa there says that she is working up to letting her all the way in.
Yeah.
And hasn't figured out a way to do it. So, I don't think there's any strong indication that she's being dishonest, but until she does it, we don't know if she's stalling.
Right. Yeah. It is kind of amazing that we're maybe at this point with Lisa. I'm not sure if I trust it yet. Like you were saying, she hasn't told her trigger event yet. Just because it feels a little too easy. Like they were being so dishonest with each other for the whole quote-unquote first book of Worm. Yeah. And now they're saying no more secrets. But like Lisa is someone who is made up of secrets.
Yeah. What would that even mean?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm just a little bit like, are we really getting everything? I mean, not quite yet, but are we going to get everything soon? I don't know. But I love the idea of it, that they would actually trust each other that much. I'm just not sure I believe it yet.
Yeah, I guess, do you have a vibe off of Tattletale? Like, untrustworthy?
No, I just think she's someone who is constantly performing and more untrusting than untrustworthy, I'd say. Like, she seems like someone who hides things not necessarily always for, like, good or strategic or, like, smart, calculated reasons. Some of the time, definitely for those reasons, but also just in a way where showing her real self feels too revealing and too vulnerable. Yeah. And is something she's just not comfortable with.
Yeah.
I was saying to a friend the other day, I feel like my process of like going through adult life has been gradually learning more and more that I don't need to hide parts of myself for no good reason.
Yeah.
Like I can just share not all of myself all the time, but like with the people I care about and trust, like there's no reason to hide things, basically.
Yeah.
And that, like, I feel like when I was younger, I was very much just like, no, automatically if something's important to me, I can't let anyone see it.
Of course.
And that feels like where Lisa is.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a really good insight. Well, okay. Do you want to talk a little bit about the powers, lore, and speculation?
Sure,
that we get in this chapter? I'll connect it back to Lisa, but I figure we can talk about it.
That makes so much sense. I love this theory. It had not occurred to me that being in the headspace that comes with your trigger event strengthens your power.
Right.
Yeah, like maybe something about being in that sort of extremity allowed them to get their powers in the first place. Maybe it opened them up to the flake of divine being or whatever that landed on them. Right. I don't know. What's the cosmology? But yeah, of course, if you're closer to your trigger event, you get stronger. Yeah. But like Lisa says, that's not something that's easy to leverage because it means intentionally putting yourself in more desperate and like weaker situations in order to be stronger.
Yeah.
It was funny, the idea of the conditioning thing, like maybe almost on an unconscious level, they'll start seeking out situations where they're in a bad place because it gives them more power and they want more power.
This reminds me a little bit of with Kidwin and Chariot and the mom being like, but you could just not use the power. And Kidwin looking at Chariot and being like, well, come on.
That would never happen.
That would never happen. Right. It's just a little bit like there's so many reasons. It's a little overdetermined in that way. But like this feels like the same kind of thing a little bit of like, well, you want the power and you want the power to be good, right?
Of course, so you want the power.
Even if you don't realize what you're doing, you're gonna keep getting yourself back into that situation.
Right, because there's this reward for being in dire straits.
And I feel like it definitely tracks. I mean, most of us following Taylor has been her dealing with hopelessness and frustration. Right? Like that's her in pretty much every chapter. But yeah, the times when her power has gone into overdrive, they talk about after the school meeting. I think Leviathan was another time. Right. It definitely tracks with Taylor. I was wondering, have we seen any instances of Lisa's power being in overdrive or feeling like it's working more than usual? She's
just not transparent enough for me to have a sense of that. I bet if we went and analyzed stuff, we could figure out some guesses at least. Yeah. But, like, it's just not clear when her power is working better.
My gut feeling would be the hospital scene is one where
that
she
makes
is
sense. Yeah.
is
she
doing
did
a
very
lot,
well
right?
there. Yeah.
And again, I don't know if that means like her post-hospital headache would be worse, or if it's just like the kind
her
of
power
thing.
Is strong
but
enough,
it
doesn't matter,
feels like very impressive to be doing as much work as she did in that scene.
That's a great point.
The other one that came to mind was maybe the bank job, but that's also just like
where she's
kind of
working
her
extra hard,
showing off, and she did at the end of that scene start to lose it, like she was getting her headache. But then I was thinking, so we don't really know if we've seen her go into overdrive, but like, do you have any ideas about what about a situation might get Lisa there? And then does that, inspire you to think about her trigger event or anything like that, right? Because she doesn't give us any breadcrumb as to like what emotional state is going to do it for her. But I've been
get
thinking
the sense
about
it's
it.
probably something negative. I mean, trigger events are.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, I don't really have a good guess. I'm sorry. I don't really have anything to go on. I did find it really interesting that she's just starting to get a headache, and it seems like she's been spending 2 days like talking to members of the public, getting this information. Yeah. It does seem like her power is a lot stronger than it was a year ago when she was figuring out
there could be
numbers.
something what she's been going through recently that's doing it for her. The slightly darker thought that I had is she's pushy. She's like, Taylor, we're doing this, like we got to get out there. The fact that we get this exposition about powers now, when she's like, we're taking a night out, strictly recon. If we don't trust her, is she trying to get into a situation intentionally that will give her a power boost and mean that she doesn't have to stop, using her power and moderate as much, right? Like,
that is actually a plausible. She's like, yeah, so I'm starting to get a headache, so we're going to go out for some fresh air. And Taylor's like, not much fresh air where we're going. And she's like, it's an expression.
So, yeah, I will be really curious to see as we go through the rest of the arc whether that theory holds any water or not about sort of how she's feeling, how she's using her power. But like that's a very, Lisa mind gamesy type of thing to do. So I'm curious.
That's something we've seen with Coil is having this ability to kind of control your environment a little bit more is the kind of thing that can be dangerously addictive. Mm-hmm. With Lisa, the ability to know what's going on, to be able to, not be caught unaware by things, like, I could see that creating maybe not the same paranoia, and she doesn't really seem to have the same personality as Coil, but like, at least a feeling, if she is actively not using her power because she's getting a headache, of being in danger, being cut off, just being deprived of, like, using your power is fun, and kind of like having that reward cut off. Like, I could see her having gotten to a place where turning her power off just feels really uncomfortable for her. Mm-hmm. And Taylor isn't really in that same position. She doesn't get tired using her power.
Right.
Her power might be a little less strong when she's not in that particular headspace of her trigger incident, but she can still sense all the bugs like 800 feet in any direction.
Right. Well, it's just another beat where it's like pretty explicit, like Lisa is limited and Taylor isn't in the same way. Yeah. Like there isn't anything that's come up for her.
Right. Taylor has some limitations, but they're not strength and they're not endurance.
Yeah. The only other like power thought that I had was we have this awkward, gross interaction with Senegal, and she's like, I don't like showing weakness to a person like that. And then she thinks to a bully.
Do you think Lisa put her in that position deliberately?
Well, this is another... Well, no, but even if...
Maybe.
What I was going to ask is, do we think that even something like that is enough to boost her power?
Potentially. I mean, I was already thinking, before you said the thing about, like, maybe Lisa's trying to boost her own power by going out to this thing. Taylor being in this, like, hive of merchants that she's kind of afraid of would kind of feel like
and it's Lisa being like, no, don't come in costume, we're going, right? It really is kind of setting Taylor up to be on the back foot. It's I'm very curious to see whether this kind of like Lisa's playing 5-dimensional chess theory holds up over the next few chapters.
On the other hand, they couldn't have gone in costume and gotten in.
No, it makes
Lisa, if she wants to go, of course she wants someone with an offensive superpower with her. She's not going to bring bitch, and her dogs.
Yeah. And one other thing that I find myself thinking about a lot on the reread is that I do just see Lisa so much more as an improviser than a grand strategist. It's not like she doesn't do the 5D chess thing, but I feel like she's not like a logistician type. Like she's going to figure out exactly how to set up the perfect shot where everything will ricochet just right. Like what she does is...
She scrambles.
Yeah, it's like, for the pool analogy, right? She hits the ball, but like kind of slowly, so then she can keep running around the table and hit it like a little bit more, even though that's not how the rules of pool work. And eventually she's going to get it into the hole. But like, that's what her power lets her cheat at.
Right.
So whenever something like this comes up, I do feel like it's, if she has grand plans, she's spinning enough plates that like, she's just kind of seeing where the moment takes her.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is the kind of thing where it's like, oh, Taylor called me. Okay, well, now I want to do this and I want to do that. Maybe I'm getting a vibe off of Taylor, so I need her around so I can keep poking in that vibe.
And that also makes sense with how her power works, that because she doesn't get all the information at once, she needs to be able to adapt to all the new information she gets. So she can't have this firmly set plan from the beginning. She has to constantly be dancing.
And the impression I get of this situation with the soldiers, it feels a little bit like overthinking. Like, it is very compelling to read about that she's gotten so into these guys' personalities that she's like, well, this is like the only way that it could work. And like, I need to bond with this guy. And here's this whole dynamic. And I guess it almost feels like over-optimizing or like something like that. And then what is she doing antagonizing Brooks with the like, oh, and you guys get to be a couple, Brooks and Jaw, right? Like, and it's sort of like I can imagine like, oh, well, like if she antagonizes Brooks and he yells at her, but then Minor shuts him down, that's like reestablishing this power dynamic. But I feel like it's just kind of, she's like, I know this is going to annoy him and I'm his boss. So I'm gonna make a joke at his expense. And
yeah, because it doesn't seem great to have Minor constantly having to put Brooks back in his place.
So it's like, to me, it's like, do you read something like that and you say like, oh, well, Lisa's doing it because she already knows what's going to happen when she does it, and it's going to like lead her down this perfect chain of events. It's like, no, she's like, she's being sassy, she's being mean, it doesn't really matter, and then she's going to move on to the next thing. She's not being super strategic. Yeah. I was also noticing, you were saying that, stuff about her power. She was surprised to learn that Taylor had confessed her feelings to Brian. Right.
And she's like, I thought that you guys were just kind of uncomfortable because like you'd cried on his shoulder and it was like too much for him. My power read that totally wrong. And she has said that her power isn't as good with people and emotions. And she doesn't try to turn it in that direction as much because it can be really overwhelming.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, she does read people wrong.
Well, what did you think about that whole Lisa on Brian and Taylor thing? Did you have any other reactions?
It seems like she really ships it hard. Like, Taylor's like, yeah, no, please don't interfere. I'm really worried if anything else awkward happens, that, like, living apart as we all are, like, I will never get that friendship back. And Lisa's like, oh my gosh, Taylor, no. And then they get interrupted, but, like, clearly she's really upset by that idea. And I think she still feels like she is sort of Taylor's mentor in the group. Taylor's like entree, her tour guide. Like, she's the one who brings Taylor in and like shows her the ropes and is responsible for making her feel comfortable. And she really wants Taylor to belong to the group. And she knows that Brian is the other close tie that Taylor has. And if Taylor and Brian kind of fall apart, then Taylor is more likely to slip away. So yeah, I think she has several reasons for wanting it to happen.
Right. What was Lisa going to say if they hadn't been interrupted? Like, Taylor thinks reassurances, but was she going to be reassuring her, or was she going to be saying something else?
I don't know. I mean, I assumed it was reassurances. Like, I think that Lisa cares so much about the Undersiders as a team that she definitely wouldn't want to consider the possibility that, like, oh, well, now that we're in separate living quarters, like, we're not really even a team anymore. We won't even see each other. Like, I'm sure she doesn't want that. Like me, I just want them to be back together. It's a delicious kind of narrative tension.
Yeah, I feel like the vibe that I get, and I love that Taylor doesn't really let her talk. But I think that what Lisa is learning in this moment is all of the stuff that Brian said to Taylor. The, like, I see you as a sister, and, like, all of that. And then Lisa gets, like, angry about it. And she starts to say, like, Taylor, no. My take is more, I think, like you're saying, like, she ships it hard, right? But I think the version of that I see is that Lisa thinks she knows what Brian feels and what's best for him better than he does.
Yeah.
I think Lisa is saying, I know why Brian said this, but he was wrong to say it.
Yeah.
Like, I think that is her reaction here.
I would buy that.
And I don't know if that means she has new details on him or whatever. And obviously, he should get to make his own decisions. She's being very pushy in this situation. But
that's also who she is.
I feel like the reaction is less like, Taylor, it's going to be okay. And she's more going to be like, let me explain to you how bad Brian fucked up. Because if he said that, he did not mean it. Which is really more in line with my view of, where Brian was coming from in that whole thing. But I do think that it's open enough that Lisa could be agreeing with me that Brian didn't mean to shut Taylor down as hard as he did.
Or maybe he meant to, but he wasn't correct or truthful about his own feelings.
Yeah. So, that's a really fun little scene. And I mean, we learned that basically she would have acted different if she hadn't been misled by her power, which is an interesting counterfactual.
Yeah. So, speaking of Lisa's power again, I just want to quickly touch on what we have in that room where Lisa's been collecting all the information. I mean, I just love how much of a conspiracy board it is. But we get Taylor's first mention of Case 53. It seems like Taylor didn't know about it before. Pages relating to something Lisa was calling Case 53. Dragons up there, Scions up there. The Slaughterhouse 9 are on a bulletin board, but Hatchet Face's picture was crossed out in red marker. So maybe Hatchet Face is gone? Dead?
Interesting.
I know they have a lot of turnover, so...
Slaughterhouse 7? Ugh.
It just doesn't have the same ring to it. But yeah, just, updating us on...
Yeah, very fun to have that thread come back. And now it's like, we don't need to get back to Gregor specifically to see that storyline. Case 53
is coming up in Lisa stuff. All right, so what next? Should we talk about these soldiers?
Let's talk more about them. I love Jaw. He's clearly the best one.
Yeah.
Lisa teases him. I still don't know how he got that name, and he rumbles, no comment. Very funny.
He's the one who laughs about him and Brooks being a couple.
Yeah. So I like Jaw. He's the grizzly bear man, and this is another like very layers beat because on the outside he looks like a merchant, but you can see that military bearing. But
he's not doing a good job of like shaking off. Right. Yeah. Yeah, I really didn't like Brooks in Senegal.
Yeah.
Brooks was the one who several times had to be called into line. He's the one who's like, why is she even here about Taylor?
Yeah.
And he seemed like maybe a little insecure, like maybe about his own value. It's why, like, he's the short one. It's like a little bit of a stereotype to, like, maybe I'm reading too much into this, but like, he's the one who's insecure about being thought of as gay or being looked at as gay. And he's like, why is that girl even here? Like, it seems like maybe he has a little chip on his shoulder about being one of the guys enough. So, yeah. And then he really wants to be like Senegal, who I really loved the way Taylor's experience with Bitch has given her at least what she feels like is this insight into people like this.
Yeah, someone whose animal emotion is visible beneath the surface.
Yeah.
She says, Bitch is really bad at hiding it, but her animal is always angry.
Yeah.
And Senegal's good at hiding it, but his animal is hungry.
He was much better at pretending to be normal, and his animal wasn't angry. It was hungry.
Yeah.
And I love for Taylor that she can see this now. It's like that feels like a really useful skill.
Yeah.
I guess I don't love that she has had to learn how to see that, but it does seem like something that can be valuable to her going forward.
And it's sadly to me a very recognizable type, like the possessiveness, the sort of like, oh, you're not in charge, I'm, unless someone who's in charge makes me stop, I'm just gonna do what I want with your physical person. And then when Lisa says, knock it off, which gives him a lot of room to sort of play it off, he just puts his arms up in kind of an I surrender, and he's smiling, but Taylor can tell it's not a real smile.
Yeah.
And that defense of, oh, I'm just joking. It's like something that I've seen in people before. And it's such a, easy way for men to play off being predatory, antisocial, just an asshole.
And in particular, like she says, she gets the sense that he's someone who doesn't find it strange for a 30-ish guy to have a teenage girl on his arm. And this isn't just a teenage girl. This is a 15-year-old girl.
Yeah.
Like, that is a very young teenage girl for this fully grown man to feel comfortable having on his arm. Like, what a creep.
Yeah, yeah. And it's reminding me of the type of people who Coil employs. Right? Mm-hmm. They're the people who have vices or, just like the Price is Right.
Yeah.
Right? And so...
Right. We've only seen the sort of stoic, regimented side of them. Or with Herman Snipes, seems like they were really good at their jobs, the two of them.
Yeah. And we have no reason to think Samuel's not good at his job.
No, that's true. Right. That's true. But we didn't see any, kind of bad sides of those two. But, these are people who are working for a supervillain.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the best guys on the block.
Yeah. Well, the flip side of that interaction, right, is that this is a chapter with Skitter wearing Taylor's clothes, right?
That's such a good point.
She is here. She has to dress down to go along with it.
She's in disguise as Taylor.
That's part of why she hates having to, sort of role play as Taylor. Yeah. Right? Because
pretend to be this helpless teenage girl.
Right, she's done with that. And just the analysis where she's like, I'm not going to throw his arm off of my body because if I try and I fail because he overpowers me, then I lose face in the encounter.
Yeah, I seem even weaker.
Yeah. So, and the fact that she sort of correctly calculates that, but has to endure in this, uncomfortable situation is awful. And then, it's just reinforcing, I guess be a supervillain, right? That's no one would try
in Brockton
that
Bay
on
right
Skitter,
now.
Right?
It's really the only thing to do. Everyone goes armed if they can, and like we've said, supervillains are armed inherently.
Yeah.
No one would try that on Skitter. That's so true. Wow.
Yeah, just think about Coil soldiers in the last chapter, or 2 chapters ago when they're all in the car, crowded into the back.
Away. Yeah. Yeah. And she's so hamstrung by wearing her own face because she doesn't want to she doesn't want to betray her civilian identity. Mm-hmm. She can't even have a little wasp sting him on the back of his ankle or something.
I was kind of wondering why Lisa is so blasé about her face. I guess she doesn't really have... because Lisa's not really a real identity,
Right. But she doesn't have much of a civilian identity.
Yeah, she doesn't seem to care how much it makes Taylor uncomfortable, this idea of being recognized or being associated as Skitter.
Yeah. Taylor is, but is it really that much of a stretch to guess?
Yeah. I feel like it's not that much of a stretch,
it shouldn't be, yeah. Although Lisa does know a lot of people, so...
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
So yeah, I'm not sure how this is going to go with Lisa and these guys and her territory. It seems like, could cause some problems. I wonder how these guys are all going to behave at the merchant situation. I wonder if some of them are going to be a little too bloodthirsty or a little we don't need to get involved in this or cause other kinds of problems.
Yeah, it's sort of how much of a collective hazing thing is it going to be where they're all going to be asked to do something awful, right? Yeah, and also the sort of delegating. Taylor has her quest And can she get Lisa to get these guys to help? Or are they going to get in the way or, whatever?
Right. Taylor and Lisa have said, no secrets, but that doesn't mean that they're going to agree on all points of morality.
Yeah.
I think Lisa is probably someone who wouldn't want to participate in something really brutal and violent, but that doesn't mean she would care as much about stopping it as Taylor would, and it doesn't mean she would fully take Taylor's side, although she would probably at least partially take Taylor's side, but would she really put the full force of herself behind that? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did just really love the look at the people of Brockton Bay, being in the shelter and the woman who's I lost my house, but I just want people to know that, the merchants are there and I don't want anyone else to get hurt.
That was such a nice interaction where Lisa's it won't always be like this, it'll get better or something like that. And the woman kind of gives a light laugh. She's like, it couldn't get worse. And Lisa's exactly. And it's just people kind of cheering each other up in these terrible situations.
Yeah. And that also reminded me of Taylor and Lisa in Post-Leviathan, because Taylor's what's this all for? It's pointless. And Lisa's like, what do you mean we won? Right? So, again, maybe she's putting on an act for both of them, or trying to be sort of she can be cheery on the outside without feeling it on the inside. We know that would be easy for her, but it was nice to see that again, trying to uplift those around her.
I wonder what insurance is like in the Endbringer world. I guess Coil did say he was getting insurance payouts.
Yeah.
So it's not sorry, active Endbringer, can't do anything.
Well, and then when Lisa turns to Taylor, she gives this whole little spiel about lost and found, leave a photo, right? And she's probably just being silly.
Yeah.
But I did wonder a little bit if she's trying to show off to Taylor about all the good that she's doing.
Yeah.
She's a little bit see how much I'm helping people. She wants to build up some credit, that Taylor thinks good of her.
Oh, yeah. And especially because she is potentially a little insecure about not having claimed her territory yet. But, look at all this other stuff she's doing.
Mm-hmm.
I just, I know, I bring this up, every time. I can't get over the idea that Taylor's no, if I control my territory really well, Coil will agree to let Dinah go. He'll never agree to that. You'd have to have him over a barrel in the most intense way before he'd give up his odds machine. I guess she hasn't read his interlude, but, come on.
Yeah. But I mean, we were there by the end of Arc 7, so why isn't she, Why isn't she there? I'm with you. I mean, yeah, it's, she hasn't thought about it the most directly, so we'll see. As it keeps coming up, we'll learn more about
and I guess you always just hope that whatever the thing is that you have to offer will be enough. You don't necessarily think in a vacuum, what would be enough? You think, oh, this is the thing I have. This is good enough, right? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess the last topic was to interrogate the sort of gender theme that comes up in this chapter a little bit more. Mm-hmm. So I feel like there's a bunch of things. I mean, we talked about the biggest instance, which is Skitter having to act like Taylor. And then this kind of the menace of normal men, right? Normal predatory men. But we actually get a lot of backup details to that theme in this chapter, which is really interesting. It's sort of the oh, well, we would want Brian to come with us as our token guy, right? To have a big, strong guy around. The description of Pritt, the token woman soldier, and how being a woman in those male-dominated environments has made her a hard ass, right? This kind of stereotype that is very gendered. We had last chapter, I don't even know if we talked about it on the episode, but Sierra talking about how she was helping out kind of in construction or clearing stuff, but then some women got attacked and
the men in her
she couldn't
family
do it
said
anymore.
She couldn't come
right.
anymore. Yeah.
And just the idea that Lisa has of oh yeah, well, the gender dynamics, the optics, we should just play into the idea that we, weak teenage girls have been claimed by these 4 adult men, and that means that we're not going to get bothered as much than if we look like we are, women for the taking or something like that, right? So the first reaction I have to that is just yes, sadly real, even female supervillains live under patriarchy.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And a little bit, I think, of a meant to be a signifier of how bad the city is doing.
Yeah.
So even not just like, patriarchy is real for everyone, but like, now that the city has fallen and the merchants are taking over, it's kind of like reverting back to this, more uncivilized.
Yeah, sort of like a
male-dominated, mindset or something. Of course, we also have just Taylor having a knife, and it was reminding me that Taylor gets pepper spray back in, the very beginning of Worm.
No, that's
and so it is, it is sort of like just that's being a teenage girl in an urban environment a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know if that just happens to be a motif in this chapter or whether there's going to be more in this arc to reflect on that theme. But
I would not be surprised.
It'll be interesting to...
Seems like we're heading for violence, and that is likely to have a gendered component.
Yeah, be interesting to keep an eye on it.
Yeah.
Well, there is one new cape name.
Oh my goodness.
A new chapter.
What's the cape name?
Mush.
Mush! Oh.
Mush.
Mush, it sounds like someone who controls dogs. I really hope for bitch's sake that there's not like a Taylor power that can actually control dogs, because that would be disastrous for her.
What a great point.
But like Mush could also just be someone who turns to mush. I think it's an Alec Mack power.
Okay.
Alex Mack? Alex Mack.
Yes. Alec Mack.
Alec Mack. I never watched it.
Well, no, it's, just because of Regia.
I know.
The chapter begins, Leviathan's attack and the waves had...
knocked over some of them all.
More or less, yeah. And we'll, I guess be finding out what goes on there.
Next time.
On Inchworm. Worm is a web serial by J.C. McCrae. You can read Worm at parahumans.wordpress.com and support the author at patreon.com/wildbow. Follow us on Tumblr and Blue Sky at Inchworm Podcast, or find our Discord link and any other updates on inchwormpodcast.com.